put your customer first rather than going through the traditional route. Learn from the data as much as you can, and then improve your models constantly based on how can you get the prices right.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the intricate relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving, and our guest today is Rishi Bhatia. And here are 3 things you want to know about Rishi before we start. He runs data management at Sam's Club. Oh my gosh, isn't that enough? He is an expert in AI, and he's fascinated by startups in India. Aren't we all? Welcome, Rishi.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, so I asked this question. I'm not sure that you think it applies to you or not, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How did you get into pricing?
I think it was it was just not a choice. I think it's just that I was managing data science for Walmart. I just want to correct, and now I'm not no more with Sam's Club. I moved to the Walmart side of it. So I was managing assortment planning and category space there, and I got into pricing because it always fascinated me. How do we have these? How do we price the product? What price the customers will buy anything, and how can I push it for more revenue? Because ultimately, when you are not into pricing, sometimes, and it is even before I started my journey with data science, I think it was always companies can make revenue because they think that, okay, I can increase the price and I can get the revenue higher. Because it was just way before I started with data science and all that stuff. And I was into even started my corporate thing when I was a student. But when you started studying, you start looking at, okay, how does pricing helps you in moving the needle across customer loyalty, customer behavior, retention. I think there are a lot of levers around that. And I think one more thing was the key component that Walmart has this policy of everyday low price, which is in their DNA. So that also made me wonder if it is everyday low price, how do we make money? Then I think that was one of the things I also wanted to see that. And then when the opportunity came my way, we had certain person who left the pricing team, and then it came to me, and my leader asked me, "Are you interested in taking up this team?" I said, "Yeah, I would be." And I started leading the pricing. Started with the markdowns team, and then moved to the pricing got under my umbrella as well.
Nice. And so I'm fascinated, if you're allowed to answer this question, how is it that you worry about pricing when you have an everyday low pricing policy?
So
how do you think about it?
So Walmart's policy is always to serve customers better. I think that's one of the key components they have. They want to have basically they want to give the best product to customer. But I think what you generate revenue out of it is basically what you do is that you attract more customers. That's the thing that way, because if you have low price, obviously customers will be looking at coming to you more, and that's what I think. You talk to any of the customers, they think, we get the best prices at Walmart, so we want to shop more at Walmart. And when you shop more at Walmart, you get more revenue out of that, and you get the retention out of it, and you don't have to go through a lot of promotions and all that stuff, where companies are trying to promote or give discounts and everything. So I think that helps a Walmart a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I find fascinating is that you, even in the conversation we had before I hit the record button, you talk a lot about loyalty or retention. How is it that pricing impacts customer loyalty?
So think of that way, most of the households across US are basically if you look at the suburbs and everything, the income levels are middle incomes or the tier 2 incomes, all those people. And I think everyone wants to save money. Everyone wants to save. Okay, even if I personally, if I have to shop, I will be looking at multiple places of same product where I get the lowest price, and I'll just buy there, buy at that point of time. And unless it is super urgent for me, I have a medical emergency and I cannot help anything out, I would go and I would spend on that. But most of the time, it is always we are looking for the pricing. Everyone is price savvy, and then if the customer knows I'm going to get the lowest price and they have that trust inbuilt in them, then they are definitely going to come back and basically come there, because I know that at this place I'll get the best quality at the lower prices and the best product I'm getting. So I would come back to that. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Like you have to get the right product, right placement. Again, with the best quality should be also right. But if you're getting at a lowest price, that's like basically the boon on it. Everyone wants to come on it.
Yeah, even rich people don't want to pay more, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to pay less, right? That's just like a hard and fast rule. Everybody wants to pay less. But it seems to me really hard to always have the lowest price on every product. So it almost seems like you should have the lowest price on the products that matter and have a higher margin, higher price on products that don't matter as much.
So in pricing, you also have you have to think through that way, like price, what is the byproduct of the pricing? There's a lot at what cost you are shopping as well. What is your cost of total cost? What does your supply chain look like? So if you have a lot of those places in place and you have a super effective system, you can lower down the cost as well. So you have to if you lower down your cost, then you can always sell at the lowest price as well, because then your margins you can maintain those margins as well. And think of that, what products we are having. If you're having these items like grocery items, consumables items, and all these items, what we are selling right now, you look at those items, I think those are common man needs, and they can go and shop at that in Walmart there.
Yes. And so I always thought of Walmart. I know that they always try to have low prices, but I always thought of them as having great supply chain.
Yeah.
Which is what, driving costs out of the system, which enables them to have really good prices, as opposed to, hey, we're just going to take lower margins than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the supply chain is really great. And I think the planning systems are really great. So that helps them in keeping their costs lower as well. And that helps in getting the lower price as well to the customer as well. So that's why.
Okay. Let's talk about the most confusing topic in the world. And that is AI. So I assume you guys are using AI.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it? How did you get into it? Can you say something that makes sense to us in terms of how you use AI?
So my journey started with basically way before when I started my career in analytics, and I was a consultant in different for working as a consultant for a smaller company, and we had different clients. We used to do a lot of customer insights for them, like what is driving customer retention, what is happening, how your sales are coming, what are the levers you can play around with where you can drive more. So pricing was one of the component that used to come in the top. Okay, it was more of an insights that we used to think through that. Okay, if you have a lower price, or if you have a right price at the right place, you have the right price, you get a higher revenue out of that. Then the journey started with looking at how can we bring those insights to the basically to our stakeholders or the business partners. And then it came with, you started with those dashboards and all that. And the next journey was, okay, how do I recommend prices more AI driven? Because then you have to figure out basically how do the price elasticity has been the concept for longer time here every time, and everyone talks about that basically so those things I started studying. And then how can I use those price elasticity in recommending the prices and getting those models. Initially it used to be regression based model, then it evolved to deep learning models, and then it evolved, there might be next phase out of it as well. So I think the basic concepts have remained same, but the techniques that you've started using are much more sophisticated and much more explainable now, which can, and the scale which can work at a scale. I think that has driven a lot of stuff right now.
So I always think of AI, especially if I'm going to price something like consumer goods, I feel like it's a black box. Does that bother you? Is it a black box, or do you actually know what's happening?
I would not say it's a black box. So for black box, when you say black box, is it black box for the customer, or is it for when we are building that piece? From what perspective?
Oh, for the one. So imagine that you take all of your current prices, current demand information, you stick it into your AI system, and it comes back and it says, here, go price this product at this price.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be a black box.
So it depends on what kind of model you're using. And if you don't understand your elasticities and all the stuff well, then it can be black box. So I think to an extent it is explainable also. Basically, if you think that, if you look at the past historical data and you look at that, okay, I want to say that when you're building your elasticity curve, you say at this price point I can have this much demand, at this price point I can have this much demand. That cannot be a black box. But when you understand your elasticity, but the other factor, when the model is recommending that price, that basically primary driver is your elasticity there, and then after that, like the seasonality and all those components come into picture, then you are recommending certain price. To an extent, I think you can explain something, which we have done a great job ourselves as well, like giving to the user like why I'm recommending this price at certain point of time, because maybe my inventory is too high for that particular item. I want to get rid of that because the season is ending, so I might have to change the price for that. Or it's a high demand item, but you have like basically like, and it's a high demand item. I might price it lower because it has a cross elasticity effect as well. Because this item gets put into the basket, it attracts other items as well. So you think from that perspective as well. Or if it is a one time buy, it's like basically people used to want to buy it, and it's a footfall driver. Maybe I would try to price it as a right point as well. So you always think from that perspective. I think when we look at the pricing piece, sometimes people think it from the basically like either it's a high price item or it's a low price item. What I think from the perspective is what price is always right. That what is the right price you can put it at, where you can have, again going back to same thing, like more footfalls, customer retention, loyalty, and you can get rid of your inventory, like get away from what inventory you have. You don't have the overflow of inventory lying in your there.
Yeah. So those are great descriptions. I would guess that you guys have a dozen or multiple dozens of reasons why you put high prices up, prices down. You don't have to give them all, but is that a true statement?
Yeah, there are dozens of reasons. Everyone wants to do that, and like you would have like basically like and we know the reasons why would I price a certain item for certain item. For like I gave the example, I would want to price certain item at the lower because it when it is in the basket, I see the basket size increasing for that particular like whole thing there. So that's one thing you always think through that perspective. So you have to like an AI, you just don't look at the product pricing at basically at standalone of a particular product. You also have to look at the interactions, how is it interacting with other products and all. But there your cross elasticity component also comes into picture.
Nice. So many years ago when I was a doctoral student, I remember reading a paper that talked about which prices consumers remembered, right? So they would remember the price of milk and they would remember the price of bread. But most things you could ask them right after they walked out of the store, how much is this? And they have no idea, right? And so does that influence the way you think about pricing at all?
No, I don't think so. We think from that perspective. What we think from the perspective is what is right for the customer. We think from that perspective always. That I think, and it's always a demand, the historical sales demand also. Like in the model, those pieces are featuring if coming in, and then you're basing your decisions based on that. But I think the Walmart's policy is to serve customer best, and I think we don't think that way. That
okay,
what's the right for the customer? We think it's from that perspective only.
Right. That's probably a good thing. And so one of the things we were going to talk about is in this world of AI is how AI helps you with your markdowns. How is it that works? Well, I'll just stop there.
So it's quite similar to price recommendation model, but what you have here is basically like a set target of the inventory left there. Basically, you have like, for example, if I'm ending a summer season for apparel, and this is not only with our retail, it's most of the retailers might be doing that, because if a summer is ending, you have a lot of stock left. Your stocking cost might be higher, your labor cost will be higher, or you like where do you those things. So you want to think from that perspective that I have to sell this inventory and all this stuff, or it's a seasonal item and you want to, so you start marking those items at a certain point of time and think through that perspective. That basically like, okay, I have to price it at right point so that I don't make loss, but I can sell this inventory at the right time, so that the new items that are going to take that space come at the right time into the store, and we are not having too much of stock left also. So you think from that perspective as well.
Nice. And out of curiosity, is the timing different between Minnesota and Texas?
No, it's mostly similar. It's a national.
Is it really?
Yeah. I think we are building right now at the national price right now. So it all depends on like basically like which items you want to like basically like do that, and that's a strategy decided by primarily right now with our stakeholders. What we do is we get the store item, these needs to be marked down, and we just mark them down further.
Now, and so how much, I assume you're sitting there crunching all the numbers and saying, here's an optimal price point. And you said you're doing it nationwide. How much authority does the region or the state or the individual store have to say, no, this is really the price that we should be doing? And then how do they make those decisions?
So stores might be having like, for example, in case of fresh items and all that stuff, the expiry date, there's have certain expiry coming out there. So you don't want to sell the item because you know that expiry date is in 3 days and the new stock is coming my way. The stores will have the authority to mark them down, but we have algorithm again, send it to them, and run that algorithm. It's created through that, and it will recommend that basically this is the price you should be selling it, and they take that price and give that price. Yeah.
Okay, so they typically just listen to you. They listen to the data.
Yeah, most of
So
is it.
okay, and then when you do dynamic pricing, how dynamic does it get? Are you changing prices
No,
multiple
we are not
times a
changing.
day?
We are not doing dynamic. I was like, I put it down because I was intrigued by that concept.
Oh,
Dynamic pricing.
well, so let's talk about Wendy's. How's that?
Yeah,
So I assume you read the articles.
I just heard the news. I didn't read the articles too much, but that was one area I was really intrigued by dynamic pricing. That like Uber cracked that idea. That now in fast food chain Wendy's, how will it crack it? I was really intrigued by that. I wanted to see like how do you, first thing is you need to know when my demand is going to be higher or lower and all that stuff. But specifically in the area where you have a food business, it intrigues me. How can you have a dynamic pricing at a certain point of time? So I need to be cautious at what point I'm ordering my ordering my burger or something like that, so that I get the lowest price.
So look, I'll share my thoughts on this for just a second. It took Uber 2 or 3 years to teach us as users that dynamic pricing made sense, right? That it was okay. And even today, they don't say you're on surge pricing. They just give you a price and say, here's your price point.
Yeah.
Now, if you do the same route over and over again, you can tell if it's high or low and what's going on, but they don't announce that you're in surge pricing anymore.
Yeah.
But they had to work hard to teach us that.
Yep.
And so it's not something people like.
Yeah, some people don't like it because if you're in a hurry and then the traffic is higher and someone has to pay more money, like if I came from my home to a certain place and I'm paying like $20 at that point of time, and I return from there and I have to pay $50 for the same trip, I will be not happy about it for sure, because the demand is more at that time. So I might not be happy, but yeah, maybe in $20 I was getting cheaper at that time, but we don't know what is the actual cost there. That's what is the actual price there.
Yeah. So I personally it doesn't bother me about Uber because I understand what's going on and I'm totally okay with it all. Okay. But when Wendy's announced dynamic pricing, I thought they were insane.
Okay.
Right. But I'll tell you how they could do it to make it make sense. And you could teach them this, by the way. Right. Instead of saying, hey, we're going to count the number of people in line and we're going to raise prices when there's too many people in line, they could use historical data and say, look, from 11:30 to 1:30, the store's really crowded.
Yeah.
So we're going to set high list prices. And if you come after 1:30 or before 11:30, we have discounted prices.
Yeah, that is a possibility, but then they are confident about their customer loyalty factor as well. That's one thing I'm pretty sure. Where they know that the people who are buying at Wendy's will not go and buy somewhere else. That's one thing they might be pretty sure of.
Well, so the question is, does someone look at that as a price increase, or do they just look at that as the price? Because today Wendy's raises prices, and I still go, well, I don't, but I would if I were a Wendy's user.
Yeah. It depends on, again, the customer to customer. I would say it's a customer perception. Maybe initially the perception, but I think people get used to the system. It took time for people, as you said, to get used to the Uber pricing as well. So maybe it will take time for user to basically understand like why it is happening, because if you're maybe when it can happen. So what do they in that situation? If 1:30 to 3:30 my price is lower and my lines are getting bigger at that point of time, then customer is also very smart in that way. If they know at this point of time I'm going to get the lower price at Wendy's, maybe they will shift their lunch timings to that time and they say I will go and buy at this time, and maybe I'll buy my dinner early. Maybe I will, because in that they have a flexibility of changing their timing. In Uber, maybe they don't have that kind of a leverage, because if I have to go somewhere at a certain point of time, I might be going at. But in this scenario, maybe I can buy my dinner early, or I can do my lunch late also. That those pieces can come into factor there as well.
Yeah, and I actually think that's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Right? They want more business. And so if you come early or after rush hour will still be busy. So they just sold more. They just got more customers.
But that's one thing. That's one thing they have to think through. That like, is it rush hour getting? Is it like the people who are coming at 12:30 to 1:30? Are they moving there to 1:30, or they are getting new customers? That's the one thing that's one of the things that will be interesting to see what happens and how much additional customers they're getting, or is the customer same set of customers moving to different time zone. That's one thing we have to think through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So can I offer Walmart a piece of pricing advice?
Yes, sure.
And I actually offer this to all retailers. Please, all retailers, listen to this advice. I think that you should have a membership to shop. Now, I think Sam's Clubs does.
Walmart Plus has also that.
No, but I mean, in order to walk in the door, you have to be a member. And the reason I say this isn't, most of the time it makes no difference, but we've got these cities where looting is going on constantly and people are stealing things. And so how do we keep people from stealing things? Well, we don't let them in the door unless they're a member. And I would guess that people who are doing a lot of shoplifting tend not to buy memberships to stores. And so it feels to me like that would be a way to keep loss down, which would hold prices down. And by the way, I would pay for a membership to go shop.
I think that's an interesting concept, but Walmart already has Sam's Club where the membership business is there. But I think Walmart wanted to be like, and I'm not sure, but I can say that wanted to be like equal to everyone. So that's why they don't want to have that membership model in Walmart. We have Walmart Plus now in the e-commerce side, which is a membership model, which people can buy and then order online. And I think there are certain benefits for it in the store as well. That's what I'm not sure about it, but there might be some.
Yeah. And actually, since you brought up Walmart Plus, how is pricing between the stores and Walmart Plus? Is it identical pricing? Do you have to think through how do we treat one different than the other?
Walmart Plus is mostly online because you get delivery free and all those benefits there. So Walmart Plus is mostly online. It's not much in store. I don't think it's in store. Besides, I have seen some checkout register which are exclusively for Walmart Plus. Besides that, I think the pricing is same for the item pricing is same. It's just the benefit you get is that you get the delivery free at home, all the other benefits that you're getting for Walmart Plus.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I recently signed up for Walmart Plus, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for signing up.
I appreciate it. Rishi, this has been a lot of fun. Can I ask the final question?
Yep.
And that is, what is one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
I think always put your customer first while you're pricing. That what does your customer want, at what price your customer will be more loyal to you, and what will they? Because pricing is one component that everyone wants low price. Maybe it's things to that, and the cost component is really important in it. So I think put your customer first when you're putting the product, and go through rather than going through the traditional route, learn from the data as much as you can, and improve your models constantly based on that. How can you get the prices right there?
Awesome. Love that answer. And actually the way you answered it gave me another question that I just absolutely have to ask before we leave. I spend most of my time in B2B, not B2C type businesses. And I think a ton about how is it that customers get value from your products. I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
And in the world of B2B, it's pretty easy to say value is measured in incremental profit, right? So a company's not going to buy your product unless they think it's going to make them more money. Now, in the consumer world, that doesn't exist, right? I can't say, hey, I'm going to make consumers more money. But how do you think about value, or do you? And is there a way to think about value from the way you do your work?
So the value is basically like how much I didn't get the question. Can you repeat a little bit more of it?
Sure. By the way, if you've ever taken an economics class, what I'm asking you is, what does utility mean, and how do you measure it and use it in the way Walmart works? But I'll ask the question the way I did before, and that was, what is value? And if I'm selling to a business customer, I can measure value. because that value that I measure is how much more money did I help them make.
Yep.
If I'm selling to a consumer, I can't measure value that way. How is it that you measure value? Or do you even think in those terms?
Yeah, so we have that certain metrics that we get the constant feedback from the customers as well, which we have in one of the KPIs. We constantly track that as like how much our customers are satisfied. So one of the metrics that is very important. You go and look at when you're online, you look at the reviews of the item, and like when the customers are providing those reviews and feedbacks, basically how the things are doing. So I think those, if you're able to improve on that, and your complaints or overall complaints are also going down, I think that is one value you can measure from that perspective as well. It's not always in the monetary term, it's always on the customer satisfaction side as well. In B2C, you can always measure customer satisfaction. You can send surveys to them, they can provide feedback, you can pick a sample out of that and do your NPS score and all those things basically, and check on that basis as well.
Nice. Fabulous answer. Fabulous answer. Rishi, thank you so much for your time today. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
And they can reach out to me at LinkedIn. It's Rishi Bhatia, direct my name, RISHIBHATIA. There might be many Rishi Bhatias, but put Walmart behind it. It's only one person.
Okay. And we'll have the link in the show notes, so not a problem.
Sure.
To our listeners, thank you for your time today. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? And finally, if you have any questions or comments about this podcast or pricing in general, feel free to email me, Mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.